old this year. And we started as an association of the world's biggest INGOs, working together on their toughest digital problems. And at the time, that was putting connectivity in hard to reach places, so the remote offices or in refugee camps. But over time, that's changed into how do we procure big tech together smartly and safely? And then now increasingly it is how do we digitize and digitally transform, two different things, across the network? And how do we support the rest of the NGO sector to also lift all the boats together? And as part of that, NetHope actually last year announced that we would increase our zone of impact to include more NGOs. And if you'd like to talk to us about that, we have the NetHope Connected project, and we're downstairs in the exhibition hall. And I think the real thinking behind that was, what if the networks of NGOs, the ecosystem players, supported each other a little bit more? And that's really tough. If we're going to be honest in this room, there's a lot of funding constraints that make that difficult. We're forced into competition spaces. Everybody has a brand that you must be unique to everybody else. And so actually being almost countercultural to how the world would like you to be is maybe the toughest part that our networks experience. And so we're going to explore that a little bit today. All of the network players here, they support others, specifically other NGOs and beneficiaries to do more with digital. So I think we start with a couple of introductions. Everybody's got 4 minutes to introduce themselves. And why do we start right here? I'll give you the mic.
Okay, thanks. I won't take the 4 minutes. Mine will be short. Okay. My name is Bill Owiti. I work for Start Network. Start Network is close to what NetHope is. We are a network of other NGOs. A lot of our members are attending this conference here today. And what we do is we act as a screening network between big donors and the other NGOs who are our members. So you become our member, then you're eligible to get funding from us to respond to emergencies locally where you're based. Our members span national, local, and also international NGOs. What I do for the network, I'm the technical projects lead. I lead all their technical projects, meaning I stand for all the IT and technical stuff, all the digital initiatives there that is under me. And I've been with the organization for like 4 years. I think that's all I could say about myself. Said I wouldn't spend the 4 minutes. We pass it. Yeah.
Move on. And also, this is one of those countercultural things, right? Start Network and NetHope have signed an MOU to work together so that we don't duplicate in the system. And we have a lot that's actually an overlap. And so it's quite a big thing for our leadership and our culture to work together and to figure out how we can do more really in concert, right? Wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Diana, for this lovely opportunity to be here today. I will also not take 4 minutes, but I'll try to be very short and brief. My name is Vinci Maria Migulo Masaka. I work for Civicus, World Alliance for Citizen Participation. And when we think of Civicus, please don't think of an INGO, because that's not what we are. We are a membership, we're an alliance. We comprise of different NGOs across 112 to 120 countries at this point. Civil society actors from across the globe working together to promote inclusive working together to promote democracy and human rights across the globe. We work in 6 regions at the moment. And the work I do for Civicus is I work as the project officer host liaison for the Digital Democracy Initiative, hence why digital keeps slipping in everything I do, I would say. And basically what that means is we work to promote inclusive digital democracy across 6 regions, that is Latin America and the Caribbean, Sub-Saharan Africa, East Asia, South Asia, Eastern Europe and Central Asia, and the Middle East and North Africa, which has now turned into SWANA. And a bulk of what we do is we try to work or collaborate with civil society actors to co-create solutions to their problems, not to give their solutions to them, but to co-create solutions with them that are more or less inclined to their own context. And yes, it's a big umbrella. So if I keep talking, I can talk for the entire hour. So yes, we can talk more after.
4 minutes, excellent.
Right. So my name is Amy Sifuma. I'm the Technology for Development Business Partner. What that means, I know it's such a mouthful. It's I'm the person who sits in between technology, impact, and people. So I work at ChristianAid. ChristianAid is an organization that works with partners, as Diana had specified. So we do implementation through partners. We work in areas to do with governance and rights, peace building, conflict, humanitarian, and also gender equality. Those are the areas we focus on. I'm a big believer of tech for good, and also very passionate about a technology being the solution, working for the people first.
Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry I can't look that way because the light is too strong for me and it's distracting my eyes from seeing everyone that side. So I think I'll be mostly looking this way in order to protect my my eyes. So my name is Matthew Lubari and I come from South Sudan. I work for Community Creativity for Development, a youth-led initiative that integrates repair and ICT. And our slogan is technology and environment. We advocate for people to repair their own devices whenever they break. And we also encourage people to learn digital skills so that they're able to use the technologies that are being developed. And we work in Uganda and in South Sudan. So I'm one of the co-founders for the initiative. Thank you. I hope within
Superb.
minutes.
Can you tell I really bullied them online about keeping within the 4 minutes? Can you? Excellent. So we thought quite a lot about how it could be the most valuable for the audience to hear from us today, and we thought we'd split it into two parts. One is NGOs helping NGOs, because with all the funding crisis and all that type of stuff, it's sort of tempting to lose a little bit of hope and those types of things. But there's an extraordinary amount of resources and ability where other NGOs are poised to help each other, and we get that amplification and acceleration effect. So I think I'd actually love to go to Vinci and Civicus first. How do you support other NGOs with their digital journey, but also for their missions? Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much. So the one thing I love about working at Civicus, and the one thing I've learned about working in Civicus, is the power of solidarity. And to think that I've seen solidarity before, I don't think I've ever seen solidarity than what I have seen in an alliance. And I'd give an example of when we had Amnesty International's CEO or executive director arrested, unlawfully arrested, for supporting some of the Gen Z protests that were happening in the country. I think every Kenyan here or everyone across the world came across that at some point, right? And what happened is we saw solidarity from members. People were sharing the news online. The fact that we all have social media, we all have Instagram, we all have TikTok. We saw many organizations go up with press statements calling the government out for what they've been doing. We've seen the same trend happening with many civil society actors across the globe. The one thing that stands out that we do as Civicus is the I Stand My Witness campaign. If anyone has come across such a campaign under Civicus, you know how impactful it has been. We have civil society actors who've been arrested across different parts of the nation, of the globe, for speaking out for what they believe in. Some are detained unlawfully, others are arrested for several years. Recently, we had a civil society actor from Egypt who was released short-term because of the amount of effort that has gone into the campaign just to ensure that his voice is being heard. So what the digital space has created is not just a space where we can post about the kind of work that we do, the different donors we are working with, the impact stories that we have, that we develop from our work, but also create voices for those who are voiceless. Because when somebody is in prison, they don't have an opportunity to speak, right? But when you have a collective that's with you and stands with you, when you know your funds are frozen, but you know organization X works in the legal firm and they're going to give me legal representation that will ensure that I'm not unlawfully detained or there are no charges that are pressed on me that don't exist, then that's the power of solidarity. And that's what I've seen from Civicus. As DDI, the one thing that I really, really love is the co-creative approach that we take. One thing that we've come to learn about technology is it's one of those things that can really isolate you if you're not careful, and it can throw you under a bus. I was telling a beautiful lady called Maureen, I know she's here, that the power of technology is that we as program staff can come up with very brilliant ideas. We can sit down and can come up with a tool and like, yes, this works. And when the minute you go and implement it in the field, everyone tells you it's not working. It's just not working. And the power of what I've learned from DDI, that's the Digital Democracy Initiative, is working with local civil society actors who understand their own challenges. And they come to you and they tell you, look, this is the problem. This is what we're going through. Don't come and give a blanket solution to a problem you don't understand. And the power of solidarity that has brought life to the 6, I'll call them support mechanisms, but please call them programs, please, just call them programs. The 6 support mechanisms that we have across our 6 regions are just one of the few things that I'm very proud of at DDI, because when you look at the implementation and someone from Latin America comes and tells you, look, this small micro grant that I got from our partner, Democracia, has helped me scale up one of these tools that I was using to call a local leader accountable to maybe this. And it helps because during the next general election, this tool will be ready for them to use. They don't have to go back and ask for funding. And then another thing that we realized through the co-designs, when you sit with local collaborators, they come and say, hey, look, why not just form our own alliance? Why do we have to rely on Civicus? Why do we have to rely on the EU, on Danida to give us funding? With the small core grants, I know core funding is very scarce nowadays, but with the small core funding that we have, why don't we come up with something, a collective that you can use even for our own support systems when we don't have donors having our backs? Because the reality of the system, the reality of the matter is the ecosystem is changing. We've all seen the ecosystem is changing, and it's changing drastically. But what it's happening is it's not solving anything, because at the end of the day, we still have problems that are evolving. As of 2022, ChatGPT was not a problem to civil society. In 2026, it's a big problem in civil society. So how do we adapt? How do we move on? And we can't just keep on relying on the same traditional systems. We have to keep evolving and developing. And that's the power of solidarity and what has really come out of digital in my own terms. Yeah.
I really love that. I love the, I heard in a session earlier that it's about the network, but even more it's about the mesh. Like in that idea of all of us pulling together in an independent way sometimes, like let's create our own smaller version, but also what if we should all pull together in a digital space to protest against something or to support each other? I think it's really the hope of the NGO sector, right? That we get that diversity and concert all working together. And I think if we go here to the START network, this is one of the things that you think about quite a lot, because that's obviously one of your founding principles, is how that's going to work. And especially in emergency response, I believe you've got a lot of thoughts in that space about how you're evolving and how you're supporting NGOs, right?
Yeah, I think it's pretty standard from what my colleague here said, that solidarity is quite important in this membership kind of arrangements. At START Network, as I said, I mean, currently we have around 138 members who are responding to emergencies, majorly in the global south or in Asia. And in most scenarios, our members are based in similar countries. So we could have, for example, 10 member organizations based in, I want to use the most recent example, the Ebola outbreak in Congo. So we could have 10 members based there. Ebola breaks out, and sorry for using a real example for anyone who would be affected. And then instead of each member raising that emergency note to us as START Network, that, Ebola has broken out, could you support us with this amount of money so that we can undertake such initiatives to help the community? We have the members now interacting in a platform that we recently just launched with the help of NetHope, if you remember. They can liaise between themselves, put together, do a joint proposal, send that to us, not fragmented like different organizations sending their own. A joint proposal, send that to us, we can deliberate about it, and within 72 hours, that is our policy at START Network, we are supposed to have either agreed to disperse the funds or not. because it's emergency cycles. It's either flooding happening somewhere, it's conflict, it's about a disease outbreak. So we have to act very fast. And what digital has done to support this process is, one, having the platform to help them liaise with each other. The second thing we have done that we are deploying recently is our central database is based on a cloud solution called Salesforce. You know, some people use Salesforce in the organization, in the conference here. So we've deployed a chatbot on our platform that enables these organizations to interact again with the platform to interrogate previous emergency alerts that have been raised that will be similar to the one they're raising at the moment. So take, for example, you're raising a disease outbreak alert. You want to look into the system and see how many alerts have been raised before we for disease response, and which ones are similar to the one that you're raising at the moment. So what you want to learn from that is how much money has Start Network has always given out for such responses, and how quickly has money been disbursed, what kind of amendments have been done from that, and what lessons have been learned from that. So if you enable national, international, and local NGOs to be able to access such information or such data on a digital platform, then you're empowering them. You're literally bringing this localization term into their context. I mean, what we believe in is that localization does not mean the nonprofit or the organization being close to the crisis, but we want to make the nonprofit closer to decision making. Decision making is happening in the UK, but they're as close to it as someone who is, in my stature, who is sitting next to the computer or sitting in the meeting that the decision is being made. So you're bringing them closer to the decision as much as they are still closer to the crisis that is happening. And that is what we mean by localization.
Okay, that's beautiful. I like the metaphor of closeness in a lot of ways, because it's that I remember someone said to me that that's what digital does, is it shortens the corridors between us. And it's in that it's not just the corridor to the other person or to the other organization, but it's also to the decision-making data, which I think is wonderful. And then I think if we go to Christian Aid, you've done an extraordinary amount of change here, and you've made some really bold claims about how you're going to be part of the mesh and also closing some of these gaps. Amy, talk to us a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yes. With Christian Aid, we work with the partners directly, and they work with the communities. So what we've done is we let the partners lead us in terms of technology. What technology do they need? When we go to the ground, we have a look at what they need, and then we work from there. I think I just attended a session earlier, which was also talking about design thinking, and that's when now we pull in the design thinking process. So we usually go to the partners and look at their digital readiness, assess their digital readiness in terms of what the people are, the technology, the processes they have, and then thereafter we then come up with minimum standards, putting in the security, data protection, what kind of technology would they use, and then thereafter we will build capacity amongst our partners. We build capacity to ensure that they know how to use these tools in the most effective way within the program. And then thereafter, we ensure that we do support them throughout the whole cycle, not just the deployment, but even thereafter, whenever they need assistance, they come back to us. And I think given the changes that are taking place in the donor landscape, we're encouraging the use of tools that are already there and not necessarily implementing big tech projects. Simple tools just like WhatsApp and Telegram, these are very easy tools to use when sharing information about governance and rights, sharing information about empowerment and public participation. And the good thing about some of these apps like Telegram doesn't share your personal information, or rather your phone number, with the rest of the people. And also they incorporate voice notes, so it's easy to reach people who are low in literacy, and also they're not very bandwidth hungry. And apart from that, we also look into having offline databases. For example, I'm sure you've heard about Kiwix. So this is an offline database that once you download it where you have internet, when you go when there's a place where there's no internet, it's easy to just use it. And it has a lot of knowledge, especially when it comes to laws and rights and civil information that people on the ground might require. And also other use of radio, because it's also a tool that we know, we may say it's an old tool, but it's a tool that reaches a very big catchment area, especially also again in low literacy areas, again, areas where there's no internet connection. But at the same time, it's a tool that can be used to share information in terms of rights, in terms of empowering people, in terms of public participation, and especially in communities. So because it can be used to communicate in different dialects. So for example, my mother, she just listens to her radio in local language. So it's easy to reach such demographics. And apart from that, I think the other tools we can also think about is human rights apps. For example, the UN has a very nice human rights watch app, which just keeps you up to date with what's going on in the human rights field. It keeps stories. It's a credible source of information, so it's always good to go back to it. Yeah, I think on top of my head.
I love that.
Yeah.
And Matthew, I think, here we've been talking about keeping people online and their democracy and help in emergencies, human rights, etc. But I think you work really at that space where people fall into the digital divide, right? So there's a moment where they suddenly will lose access, and that has been really close to your heart. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do to keep people online.
Thank you so much. We keep, I think, almost every category, the developers and the end users, by ensuring that their devices are fixes. Imagine you want to develop a very nice system, and in the process, you find your device has broken or just suddenly goes off. What happens? Your work comes to a standstill. You'll not be able to do anything. And imagine the user that you're developing the system for is trying to access this system, and then suddenly the phone's black out, the laptop stops working. What happens? Services interrupted, access interrupted. So that's why we come in to teach people how to fix their own devices, teach people how to access these platforms online by teaching them digital skills, which are very vital for information access, and as well to access repair information online. But as well, while focusing on this repair, we bridge a digital divide, ensure that everyone is online. And how do we do this? We host community repair cafe events in order to share skills and knowledge with people who have skills and those ones who don't have the skills. So in our repair cafe workshops, it brings together unskilled people who don't know anything about electronics or about repair, and those ones volunteers who have repair skills, they come together and share the knowledge freely. Not only that, with this, we also create offline connectivity because as someone said that with technology, sometimes people are isolated. And through the Repair Cafe events, we connect people together to share ideas and solve problems together. And this has been so perfectly in our areas that we have operated in. But also we are looking at working on, how do we bring these people who are repairing together? Repair is something that has been overlooked by many. Even governments, they don't recognize the work of repairers in the countries. Take an example in Kenya here. There are amazing informal, people who are doing repair in the informal sector. But are they recognized? No. Yet they are, governments are benefiting from them. They are generating income. They are being taxed. And it's contributing to the GDP of the country, but yet they are not recognized in any way. So we are also advocating for these community repair cafes so that governments and policymakers can come up with legislations that can support the repair work in Africa. because repair in the European countries, in other Western countries, the right to repair, it's coming up and people are already aware. But when you come to Africa and you tell them the importance of repair, it does not go beyond just fixing the device, right? Because repair does not only help solve the immediate problem of connectivity, but also relate to environmental impacts. Like as CC4D, our slogan is technology and the environment, responsible use of technology so that it doesn't destroy the environment. We can build these amazing tech, these beautiful tech devices, these AI devices, but at the end of the day, we are living on this planet. And if we discuss these devices anyhow, then we are contaminating our environment, we are polluting it, we are demanding for new raw materials to extract in order to produce more devices like these beautiful cameras, these projectors, right, which needs a lot of resources. But our works ensures that these devices are, stay in use for a longer period of time, and to ensure that we inform developers to produce devices that are long lasting.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. And I think one of the things we wanted to showcase for you is that, of course, each of these organizations has its own theory of change, right? But collectively, the theory of change is so much stronger. The flywheel together, the end-to-end life cycle of digital is so much stronger when we're working together, bringing our own expertise. But then there's one part of the conversation that was the part where we were talking to other NGOs to join the movement, to work with each other, which is extraordinarily difficult, but to work with each other. And one of the things we did want to talk about, of course, is our supporters, our stakeholders, the governments that support us, the institutional funders, the other support. And we wanted to really explore that thing of how best to do that. And I think, Bill, you were willing to start us off in that conversation. Your first thoughts, right? Apart from give us more money. We were hoping for a more deeper conversation than give us more money. Yeah?
Thanks, Diane. I think what everyone, all of us seated in front here, or everyone in this room, because most of us work for nonprofits, one thing we struggle with most is different donor reporting needs. Someone gives you money or a donation, they want you to report in a certain format, in a particular system, and they're very serious about it sometimes. That, you know what, I want my data to be shown in Tableau. I want my data dashboards to be shown in Power BI. I want data collection to be done on Kobo Collect. And as a recipient, most of the time we don't have the voice to say no, because at the end you want the money to, for example, support your programs. What I've seen in my career life, including where I work, is different donors coming with those needs, and we end up with different fragmented tools that don't speak to each other. But I think with the space in which we are right now, where AI is taking the lead and data being structured is quite at the center of things, I would like donors or supporters to start supporting more on the infrastructure, on the governance, and on the long-term stability of these platforms. An example of what we've done at Start Network, previously we've had multiple data collection tools. We've had Kobo Collect, we've had Survey CTO, we've had Form Assembly, we've had TaraWorks, but now we've limited those to only two, where one is used for online data collection, the other is used for offline data collection. For data storage, as a central database, we've had multiple platforms. Sometimes we had Azure, we had Salesforce, we had AWS. We've now centralized all that into Salesforce. And for visualization, there's a time we had Power BI and Tableau and some visualization happening on Salesforce, but now we've brought all that into Power BI through the help of our data lead, who is seated in the audience here. If we follow certain paths where we have specific tools for specific purposes, and we communicate this strongly to our donors, then, we will end up in a almost perfect scenario, almost a utopia of systems where, you no longer depend on donors to support your licenses for a platform that you're no longer using, but you have to pay for the license or subscription. But the movement will be towards towards building independence in these NGOs to a level that even if a donor who was supporting your system or your system abandons you, you're not left in a bad state where you have multiple systems to continue supporting the subscriptions or licensing needs. Thank you.
Yeah, it's looking for those places where we can have simplicity, please. We're trying to solve complex problems. These don't have to be the complex problems. And I think, Amy, that's one of the things you've been pushing at with your support to smaller NGOs, right?
Yes, I'll emphasize again on there's no need of coming up with complex, big technology projects. Let's use what is available. Let's use what is readily available, especially to the communities, our partners. With less money in circulation, I believe the tools that we already have can be used. Sometimes there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Yeah.
And Vinci, I think you have some thoughts on this. You were loud in our conversation. You knew immediately.
Yes. So I think one of the problems that we also have in the current ecosystem is that we are using traditional models of funding in a world that's rapidly evolving. In a session that I just attended on trying to assess the digital aspects of measuring impact of digital, we were talking about a case of malaria against a case of AI. So it will take years before you get a new strain of malaria in a country, right? But how fast has AI evolved? We started hearing about AI in 2020, 2021, ChatGPT came and everyone was so excited about it. Students were using it to do homework. We had people who are using it to create photo. We actually hadn't gotten to the photo bit yet. So it was just something that you could ask questions and it gives you responses, right? But right now, if you ask AI to create a whole campaign, it can give you a whole campaign, including the budget that you should send to your donor and all that. So that's how much it's rapidly evolving. So we are using traditional models to deal with the rapidly evolving problems. So we have problems of, I learned a new term last week when I attended a forum of civil society actors called digital assassination. We have seen civil society actors going through a lot of digital assassination, but the response in how it is emergency funding to sort of like help these civil society actors is not available. If somebody comes and applies for a crisis resiliency fund, it will take 6 months for them to get that grant because it has to go through systematic processes of approvals. I have to check if your bank account, I'm guilty of that, by the way. I have to check, do you have a bank account? Is it a USD bank account? Because that is the requirement I have on my system. That is what I have to tick off. But what if we had a more flexible approach into how we're doing these things with civil society actors and tell them, look, I know you don't have a USD account. Can you speak to a local organization who has a USD account and can accept to take this money on your behalf? And if we have policies in place that allow civil society actors, especially grassroots, to be able to do that, then it works. Because I've seen it work for our organization. I've seen it work with the partners that we work with, specifically those in the Swana region, because that's the hardest region to send money to. So if it can work for those people, why can't it work for individual activists? Because I know as funders, we have problems with an activist writing a proposal and sending it and asking for $50,000, right? So in my right mind, would you give someone $50,000 if they don't have a structured organization? No. So if we have an accountability framework in place and we rely more on trust funding and less of systematic funding, then we'll be able to achieve this solidarity, not just with civil society, but also with our funders. Because to be very honest, solidarity is part of the theory of change. If we're working in fragmentation, even with our own donors, then all we're doing is ticking boxes, just ticking boxes, and then that's it.
And it's such a time suck, it's terrible. So we're going to go to Matthew at the end here. What is your one thing that you wish governments and donors would do differently on behalf of network organizations here and helping people bridge the digital divide? Yeah.
I think the one thing that I would like governments, policymakers, and the people who are in this room is that we need to advocate for the recognition of the repair culture, because it's a very important aspect that bridges the two, the donors and the people who are supporting the users. Without it, I think the system will be broken. But also we want the donors to not to make things complicated for for the people who are applying for the funds. You know, in some cases, there's complex application systems where a donor requires you to write a text and at the same time wants you to record a video to add to the text that you have. It takes a lot of time. And at the end of the day, you don't get the funding, which is a very big challenge. If it is text, video. So our call is that let's advocate for a culture of repair. Let's advance a culture of repair in order to bridge this digital divide.
Thank you so much. All right, now we still have 10 minutes, so we're going to do a lightning round because we promised each other we would, where we're going to talk about our favorite program as individuals that's currently happening, the one that inspires us to keep doing this work, even in a very tough 18 months. Yeah? Vinci, go ahead. Start us off.
Where do I start? My favorite, just one. My favorite one is what we call the regional support mechanisms. It's my favorite project because it was created by local civil society for civil society. So we have no donor influence, nobody who sat down and said, no, this should not be done. It was, we want this done in our way, and that's how it's done. So if I tell you right now to ask our partners in Sub-Saharan Africa if they're implementing the same project that is being implemented in East Asia, the answer you'd get is no, because it's completely different. And that's the one thing I love about it. It was created by them. So I cannot come and say I created this, that would be a lie. And the one thing I've really enjoyed is the cross-regional learning. You come to hear about the challenges that different civil society actors are experiencing, and then you find a niche or a nexus of all these issues, and you come and sit down and you agree and you say, you know what, this is what we're going to do about it. And just seeing how the power of solidarity has helped our support mechanism partners has also been very important, because we come up with rapid solutions to rapid problems. Someone will come to you today and tell you, hey, look, there's a foreign law that has been implemented in our country. We can't get a solution. We reach out to another partner and ask them, did you go through this? And they tell you, yes, this is what you did. I'm like, thank you. This is what they did. Try this. And it works. You know, and it's because of the power of digital. That's just how connected we are. And yes, that's my favorite project. That's my baby. Ask my colleague. My colleague is over there. He can tell you it's my baby.
Matthew, tell me about yours.
My favorite is Repair Cafe.
Yeah.
This is where, even if you ask me when I'm sleeping and just walk up like this and say, Repair Cafe.
No.
Because it bridges a lot. It's something that enables us to solve a lot of issues, pass information, share skills, have leisure, entertain yourselves. So it's quite a lot. And one thing I like about it, because it's a platform for mental maintenance. That's one thing that I love about it, because, for example, take a situation for people who are traumatized. When they come to a Repair Cafe, they see a lot of things happening, music, conversation, and you find yourself that your problems are somehow gone.
It's a lot of agency in there. That's wonderful. Bill, favorite.
Okay, I just wanted to start by very quickly, I'll do that. I just want to start by mentioning that, I mean, this conversation that we've had here today about digital and localization, if it is not done intentionally, then it might actually centralize power, but not decentralize it. Just wanted to mention that. And speaking about being intentional about these things is, I mean, looking at what we have been able to do at Start Network, being able to give funding within 72 hours of an alert not being raised. I relate it to an example where you could ask me for this bottle of water, but for me to give it to you, I first of all need to know that you need the bottle of water. And for me to give it to you, which will be about me knowing that you need the water. And this tells us that whatever we have developed, what we've done at Start Network, if knowledge can move faster between the person who is close to the crisis and the one who is supposed to facilitate it, then aid or help can also move faster. So help is only as fast as knowledge can move. Thank you.
So one of our partners is called TISA, and sometimes I mistake them for a startup, a tech startup, because they have come up with an app called Jihusishe, which is a Swahili word that just means I'm getting involved. I would like to get involved. It's a governance and rights app that just brings together in Kenya, brings together the local wananchi citizens to know what the government is doing, what their local government is doing at the different levels. And it allows them to participate and give their opinions on what is going on. So it really gets down to the people on the ground. And the other amazing thing they're doing, they have a podcast. Maybe you can just check on TISA. They have a podcast and they allow other people to go onto the podcast and talk about what they're doing. So it's also part of an empowerment. I really like what they're doing.
I think that's just glorious. And I think if I was going to wrap it up, I think, it's the power of the networks thing is the people that can encourage you the most, even in the dark times, the tough 18 months, the Ebola outbreak, the political complications in many countries, it's the other NGO people that work with you that have the same sort of joy and drive in our work. And as NetHope would say, that's the hope in everything that we're doing. And so thank you very, very much to my panelists who've been talking about the power of networks and the power of what they're doing to support others. Please meet with them, join with them. Thank you to Esther for helping sort out the panel. And that was NetHope. Thank you all.
Take something.